Welcome to the intersection of technology, cybersecurity, and society. Welcome to ITSP Magazine. You're listening to a new The Hacker Factory podcast with hacker maker Phillip Wylie. You're about to discover what the role of a professional hacker entails, the different specializations it holds, and what it takes to learn and become one. Enjoy the conversation as Phillip and guests unveil the secrets of professional hacking, a mysterious, intriguing, and often misunderstood occupation. Knowledge is power, now more than ever.
BugCrowd's award-winning platform combines actionable contextual intelligence with the skill and experience of the world's most elite hackers to help leading organizations identify and fix vulnerabilities, protect customers, and make the digitally connected world a safer place. Learn more at bugcrowd.com.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Hacker Factory podcast. I'm your host, Phillip Wylie, the Hacker Maker. In each episode, I have a unique guest with their story on how they got started in offensive cybersecurity. And today I'm very excited to bring on my coworker, Kirk Wah Yick. We've worked together, a couple different times, and I've been really impressed with his work ethic because, certification-wise, he's got a lot of certifications, so just his effort to learn the skill of pentesting is pretty impressive. So welcome to the show, Kirk.
Hi, Phil. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule. I know you're a father, a husband, and a pentester, so I appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to share your knowledge with our listeners.
Oh, it's my pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
So why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself, about your background, and how you kind of got started?
Okay. Well, my name is Kirk Wah Yick, from Hilo, Hawaii, born and raised on the Big Island of Hawaii. And basically, I got my start in it. I went to school for IT at the local community college here. I actually fell into it kind of by mistake, to be honest. I was studying to be an electrician, and I had an opportunity to go with my Brazilian jiu-jitsu coach back to his hometown of Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. The electrical program didn't want to let me go, so I talked it over with my parents, and they were like, "Hey, it's not every day you get to have somebody from Brazil to go back there with and kind of be your guide." So they said, "Oh, we think you should put school on the side for just this one time." So I did that, and when I got back, since I couldn't get back into the electrical program, I decided to just take a basic IT class because I actually wasn't very computer literate. When I was serving in the military, I could barely even check my email, let alone surf the internet. So that was kind of strange how I ended up in that. But once I was in that, I was just so intrigued as to what computers could do that I kind of continued on the path and eventually ended up in security.
Very cool. So whenever you started out your professional career, did you start out directly in security, or did you work in IT or any other areas before you moved into security?
I worked in IT first. I actually had moved with my girlfriend at the time from Hilo. We went up to Portland, and she was continuing her education up there, going for her grad program. And I was up there, and I had just been introduced to network security. So I was taking classes at the local community college in network administration as well as security. And that kind of opened my eyes to how big the field really is. And so I finally got my foot in the door with a corporation and did corporate IT support for, I think it was about 3 or 4 years. And then they already knew my intention to go into security because before I had even got the IT job, I had already gotten a couple forensics certifications. That was my actual path that I was intending was forensics or incident response or, along that lines. And I just kind of had my focus strictly on that, so I gave up, vacations with the buddies to all these cool places. And I used my vacation days from work to seek out these certifications, and I just was waiting for an opportunity on the incident response team to open up, when I was like, hey, what else can I be doing to better myself so that when a job opportunity does come along, they're like, hey, we want that guy. So I actually had listened to a talk by the Pentesting team manager at the time. And I reached out to him and said, hey, I'm trying to get into incident response. And I think, learning to do penetration testing might help me as a defender. So, he was very, very accommodating and was like, oh, yeah, any types of questions you have, just reach out anytime and stuff like that. But I felt like I had so much questions that I didn't want to be a burden upon him. So I took it upon myself to actually go and take the SANS GPEN course. And while taking that course, my mind was just blown. And I was like, oh, my goodness, this is even more fun than the defender side. So that really piqued my interest. And I was lucky. Usually at the end of those courses, they have like a 1 day for capture the flag, competition. And it just so happens that my team won the CTF on that for that class. And when I got back, I was like, hey, check this out. I got this cool coin for winning the CTF. And that, I guess, is what really caught his attention. He was like, hey, would you like to come out here and work with my team for a week? And I was like, are you kidding me? If you get an okay with my boss, I'm there. So that's kind of how I actually got my transition into security, was from that.
Very cool. That's one of the cool things that sometimes things don't go exactly the way people plan or think they're going to, but things turn out so much better. I mean, mind you, working as an electrician, that's a pretty decent paying job nowadays, and probably better than it was, 20 or 30 years ago, because there's less people getting in the industry. But, you've got to figure what you're doing is more safe than being an electrician. You're not often going to, your risk of getting killed while doing a pen test is not much, unless you're doing some physical pen testing, and
very, very true. Yeah.
and security catches you. So that's really pretty cool. A good lesson to show people that, what you start out to do and it doesn't go as planned is sometimes a good thing. So, I mean, I'm sure you're happy what you did. You got in and won the CTF, got through the training and found that it was something that you enjoyed. So that's really cool.
Yeah, definitely really cool.
So what about your certifications? Because I know you've got a bunch of certifications. So why don't you share with us what certifications you have?
Yeah. Well, let's see. I started off with the Certified Computer Examiner, the CCE certification, and that really is what opened my eyes to forensics. And I was like, wow, this is pretty cool. I didn't know all this stuff. And while I was waiting for an opportunity in the incident response team, I reached out to some of their workers. And at the time I was in Portland, and they were up near the Seattle area. So I just asked them, I said, hey, if I took some time off of work, could I come up and shadow you guys for a couple of days? And they were ecstatic. They were like, wow, we don't normally get questions like this, but yeah, sure. So I got an okay from my manager, and I took a couple of days off of work and drove up there and followed along with them. And I expressed my interest in it. I said, hey, if you guys ever have an opening, I would love to, transition to this. And it took quite a while for them to, actually create something. So in the meanwhile, I asked them, hey, what can I do to improve my chances of getting a position if, one opens up? And that's the first time I heard of a SANS course. So they said, hey, SANS is a really good education, though it's very pricey. It's, some pretty good education, and it's, I guess, highly sought after, I guess, maybe in the industry. So I said, okay, cool. So next thing you know, I'm not going out to have a drink with friends and saving all the money I could, scrounging everywhere I can and living like a poor college student. And finally was able to save up enough money, and along with help from family and stuff like that, I managed to get myself down to one of their San Diego classes. And that was for the GCFA, the forensic analyst position, certification. So that was another mind-blowing opportunity that I took for a certification. And, they really don't joke when they say it's like drinking water from a fire hydrant, right? It's just tons of information. But once I was able to successfully get that, I was still waiting for an opportunity. And that's when it kind of dawned on me, as I mentioned earlier, that I was like, hey, if I learned how to be an attacker, that might make me an even better defender as well. So again, same process, saved up my money and, took a few vacation days from work. And this time I think I went to Arizona for taking my GPAN course. That of course was mind blowing. And once I got back and had that talk with the Pentesting manager, and actually went out there to work with a couple of his guys who are still mentors to my day, to this day. And they're actually on the red team now. But I had a great time learning with them and stuff. So I just I told him, I said, this is even more fun. So I think I want to stay on this path instead. So he actually really, made the effort to create an opening on his team to bring me aboard, which I'm so grateful still to this day. And then while I'm waiting for that opening, I was like, hey, wait a minute, we don't just do infrastructure pen testing here. We also do web apps. So that's what led me into even more certifications. I went for the GWAP, earned that. And after that one, I had finally already transitioned over to the pen testing. So, it was great. I was using my new skill sets and just having an awesome time learning even more during work. And I wanted to experience more of what else is out there, because, this is what I fell into, but I'm not sure if it's my niche or, what other interests I may have. So that's when I sought out more certifications from SANS. Also, I got their mobile device security analyst certification. What else did I get? I took the advanced course for the web app pen testing. That was pretty cool as well. Some pretty amazing stuff going on. And I even decided to take the Python course too. I am not a coder by any means. And I'm still trying to grasp the concept, but if I look at a script, I can kind of get the gist of what's going on to, try to improve it or maybe suit the tool for my particular needs. But that's just trying to further my skill sets in the industry. And I even went for the Wi-Fi one. I earned that one as well. So it's just trying to expose myself to the different areas of pen testing and offensive security to see if there's one in particular that I maybe favor more than the others. I haven't quite found one more favorable yet, but I'm definitely enjoying being exposed to the different areas. So that's kind of the reason why I went for so many certifications, just trying to get my feet wet,
Yeah, that's great. And getting all that experience, because, when people are starting out, it's kind of hard to know what you want to do. Because when I started out pen testing, I spent the first 5 years consulting. And one of the first jobs I worked at, I was on this one team for a year and a half or a year to 8 months or something like that. And we were doing infrastructure pen test and application pen tests. But then they were going to have to start laying off from our department. So we moved over to the managed services team. So we got to keep our job, which was good. But we went to another group that we were just specializing in pen testing. So I stayed there for a little over a year, but I got bored because I didn't get to do enough infrastructure pen testing, and all we were doing was application. So I made the move to go somewhere where I could do a variety, because I didn't like just doing application. Although, if I went back nowadays, if I was to specialize, I would probably do application because I've done so much infrastructure over the years. So that's really good that you got a wide range of exposure to that. And, a lot of times people that are doing infrastructure don't realize how valuable learning the web app pen testing can be, even if you're not doing a web app pen test. Yes,
I totally agree. Totally agree on that.
So yeah, there's so many times you run into consoles that are web-based that are running some IT function or some kind of security software or something. So you mentioned that you'd had the coding class, the Python course, and we kind of see from your path that you went in, how kind of that you didn't have that scripting starting out. But
yes,
if someone's trying to get in, would you recommend that they learn how to script, or is that something that they could learn later on?
Well, it kind of depends on them, I'd say. I did it because I wanted to hopefully get better, and be able to craft my own tools. And even though I earned the certification, I don't think I can craft my own tools yet. But as far as somebody new coming in, I would definitely say if you find an interest in it, definitely acquire the skill set, because it will help you. It definitely will help you. but it's not required. I still have trouble, creating my own scripts and stuff. So it's not mandatory, but it's definitely, another tool in your tool belt if you ever need it, which is definitely, positive. So.
Well, that's awesome. So as far as someone's wanting to get started to pen testing, what would you recommend after you've had your experience of how you got in? So, people that have been in the field for a while, you kind of learn some things in hindsight. So what would you recommend to someone that wanted to become a pen tester as far as education path, how to get their foot in the door and so forth?
Well, for me, I would say from my experience, networking is the number one thing you need to do, because for me, I have no friends in the field, when I first got in, and didn't know anyone at all that did this kind of work. So it was hard for me to kind of get exposed to it as well as get my foot in the door. So that's where I went the educational pathway. Started with my associates in IT, got network administration and security certifications from community college. And at the time, I wanted something a little further to kind of ensure that when somebody looked at my resume, that they would, kind of want me. So I wanted a undergrad degree. So I kind of searched the web, and at the time, there was only one place that offered a bachelor's degree in computer forensics, and that was Champlain College at the time. I just didn't want another associate's degree, so I wanted to take a step up. So that's why when I was working in the corporate IT, I went to school full time as well, and I earned my bachelor's degree. One of my more prouder moments, because I wasn't that good in high school. I think as far as grade wise, I was an average student. But I managed to, I guess I was so determined and focused that I actually managed to graduate at the top of my class. And I was just, my parents were really stoked about that, So anytime you make the parents happy, it's a good feeling after all their sacrifices for me, So, and then after that, I felt like the education wise, at least I was covered. And then that's when I started going more into the certifications, because by that time, I realized that, hey, I want to do pen testing. It kind of called out to me more. Besides the benefits of not having to be on call once a month and all that stuff. So I was like, hey, I value my time with my family as well. So that's when I started focusing more on the certifications, specifically for offensive security type roles. And but yeah, I'd say the biggest thing is networking. I find it difficult for me. Like I a lot of times I don't have the same interests as a lot of people that grew up in IT type of roles. But the longer I've been in the field, I'm starting to find a lot more people with the same common interests. And I was like, oh, okay, I am pretty normal. There's other people with the same interests and stuff. So, but yeah, I would say networking is a big one, because nobody's going to know to reach out to you for an opportunity if they don't know about you. Yeah. So that was a big one for me. And that's why for me personally, I actually like going to those live conferences, hopefully once everything settles down, I can get back into it. But that was the biggest way that I started to get, I guess, a visual into the cybersecurity field. So I hope that helps someone.
Yeah. It's one of the things I love to hear it when people talk about networking, because one of the episode from last Friday, the person I had on, they went from being a pool cleaner to a pen testing job. Went from pool cleaner to 6+ figures as a penetration tester. And the big key for them, a lot of it was networking, because you're working as a pool cleaner. It's not like you're going to be hanging out with a lot of security people and just hang out with your peers. Yes. So the networking thing is big. So I'm glad you mentioned that, because a lot of people I see on LinkedIn that they're getting discouraged, and that's understanding. It's not always easy to get in, but you have to be persistent. And just like you said, the networking piece, because if no one knows you or what you can do, they're not going to be able to help you out. You get to meet people, right, and, they have job openings they'll share with you. And another thing I like that you did too is a lot of people think about networking, but they totally forget what's under their nose, the people you work with. So anytime people you go to school with, network with those people, connect, because, they find jobs. Just like opportunities opened up for you because you had an interest and you networked with the folks that you worked with, and that helped you get your way in. So I think people often overlook, the people that they meet through education or in the workplace. So that's great. So as far
Yes,
as,
yes.
in-person networking, so what other recommendations do you have for like are there any go-to networking platforms that you like to use for like virtual?
Well, I mean, what I really started following people, I guess would be a better term for me. I haven't really networked with them, but I follow them on, it seems like cybersecurity, the biggest one for them is Twitter. So I created a Twitter account. Like this is basically back at my first SANS conference. They're like, I guess trying to promote it. So they're like, oh, if you're on social media on Twitter, use this hashtag to, kind of signify you're at this event and stuff like that. So like, oh, okay, well maybe I should get a Twitter then. So created me a Twitter account, and I first started just by following, the people that I knew were in the industry, a lot of the teachers there. So I started doing that, and just from that, you start to be exposed by more and more people also in the industry that also follow them, and of course, that starts to fill up your feed. So that's a good way to go. But other than Twitter, for me, I don't really have much of a social media platform for for cybersecurity, but I'd say that's the biggest one for me anyway.
Yeah, I agree. Twitter is a good one. I find a lot of my resources and stuff through Twitter. So I know you're a busy guy. You got a family. You got a full-time job. So how do you manage, like, continue to educate yourself, trying to avoid burnout and those sort of things? Are there, as far as not even burnout, are there activities you like to do that helps prevent burnout?
Yeah. I totally agree with that. I actually got close one time to burnout. To be honest with you, I was contemplating going into that SANS Masters program, and I ended up taking 3 SANS courses in a year. And after that, I was like, I was still motivated, but I was like, man, okay, this is getting kind of tiring. So that's when, right about the time where I had just recently gotten married, and we were expecting our first child. So I thought, as much as I love my job and love, continuing my education and learning more and stuff like that, I was like, hey, I need to find something that I can do away from the computer, away from technology, just kind of disconnect and stuff. And so my outlets basically are martial arts and fishing. I love fishing because, basically it's kind of a family thing for me. I come from a family of fishermen and divers, just kind of watermen. But during my time growing up, I was kind of away from it because my dad was still building his boat. So I didn't get to fish as much as like my older brother. But that is like a family legacy thing for me. So I love being out on the ocean, being out on the water fishing. But my other one is martial arts. Let's see, my mom has had me in martial arts since I was 4 years old, basically. So I started out in judo, and then I think when I got into my early 20s, a local boy in my town became the first non-Brazilian to win a world championships at the black belt level for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So that was kind of a big headliner in my town, and I was like, oh wow, here's this guy same age as me, and just small like me as well, but man, he's just smashing guys and all this stuff in mixed martial arts. So that kind of got me into jiu-jitsu as well. And I never realized how they're very similar, the judo and jiu-jitsu. So my judo skill sets actually helped me in my jiu-jitsu. But that is another big one of my outlets. Besides the fishing, is just my jiu-jitsu. That's actually, I've been doing it for 21 years now.
Wow.
My goodness, time is flying.
That's a long time. So I bet it's pretty good for relieving stress, I would imagine, huh?
Yeah, it is. And I was kind of surprised because, I was thinking, okay, jiu-jitsu is going to be more, athletic kind of, jocks kind of guys, football players or wrestlers and stuff like that. And I actually was surprised to slowly discover other people in information security that actually train jiu-jitsu. So that was actually one of the biggest, I guess, common things that we had in common with me and the Pentest team manager at the time. I went out to work with his workers, and I'm not sure how they looked at my ears. That's what it was.
Okay.
And they saw the cauliflower ears, and I guess they were, kind of instant messaging with the boss. They're like, wow, his ears are kind of funny, or something. And so he said, oh, does he train jiu-jitsu? And so they asked me, do you train jiu-jitsu? I was like, oh yeah, I do. And so they're like, "Oh, what belt are you?" I was like, "Oh, black belt." And they're like, "Whoa, whoa, okay, wow, that's cool." So yeah, that's my other main, I guess, outlet is fishing and the jiu-jitsu.
So how far did you get with the jiu-jitsu? Did you compete?
I did, but only locally. I didn't get to really. This is in the early 2000s, so there wasn't really much competitions. I mean, there were some, but not a lot as now it is these days. With mixed martial arts and the UFC and stuff, they really brought a spotlight to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So now it's like everywhere you go, there's an academy on the street corner or something, and all these kind of mixed martial arts events going on. But at that time, I didn't really have much option, so I only had pretty much one place to train here, and it just so happens that he was a world champion as well. So he brought in a lot of these world class athletes that we got to train with as well. So we really benefited from that.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting how martial arts, back, I remember when I was, going through high school and stuff, that the stuff like karate and taekwondo, all the punching and kicking stuff was kind of popular. And it's interesting to see how more of the grappling sports have really taken off.
Yeah. It's kind of mind blowing for me because growing up, judo, I would say, is more on the grappling end of the spectrum, but I was always a Bruce Lee fan. Maybe because I'm Chinese too, I'm not sure, but he was always an icon to me. I was like, wow, Bruce Lee, so awesome, and then you watch his old movies and stuff. And so it's kind of funny that I gravitated more towards the grappling end of the spectrum. But yeah, I totally agree with you. When I was growing up, if you didn't know a striking art, you weren't cool.
Yeah. Yeah, very cool. It's interesting because I see some of my former powerlifting buddies and stuff that have kind of got out of competing in powerlifting and started doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and seeing all the interest in that's pretty interesting to see how that's really caught on.
Yeah, it definitely is amazing. Pretty cool stuff.
So what other advice would you have for someone wanting to get into the industry that maybe we hadn't talked about yet, or I hadn't asked you a question on? Maybe you can elaborate on that if you have anything.
Yeah. I would say best thing to do besides what we've already talked about with the networking and then educational and certification pathways is actually doing it. I would say would probably benefit them hands down. They've got, compared to when I first started, I had such difficulty trying to find resources providing information on this, but nowadays there's a lot of alternatives, besides the SANS courses, because like I said, the SANS courses are pretty pricey. Most people only can afford to go if their employer pays for them, but it can be difficult to try to get there. But they got so much other stuff like Hack the Box and Cybrary and all these different Pentester Academy. They a lot of different varieties for different people that can afford different price ranges and stuff like that. But I'd say hands down, you need to get your feet wet and do the work. Learn how to do scans, learn how to exploit boxes, and things like that. I would say that would probably be the biggest recommendation that I would suggest.
Yeah, I like that because one of the things you see from being an adjunct professor, I used to run into people that went to four-year schools, and like here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, one of the local colleges, like for their CCNA course, it said labs if time permits. And at community college, you did labs. That was part of it. Labs were part of it. Mm-hmm. Theory is important, but getting the hands-on experience, if you don't understand how to use the tools and all that, it's kind of hard to really do the job.
Yes, I totally agree. And a big reason for that suggestion is I'm pretty sure it's still this way, but when I was trying to get my foot in the door, it was so difficult because when I would search for, job postings and stuff, entry-level position required like 3 to 5 years experience. I was like, how is that an entry-level position? I want to get the experience. So that's why I want the entry-level position. And that is the biggest reason why I say that they need to already know what's going on, kind of thing. So get your hands and feet wet doing the actual work. I really like Hack the Box. I just got access to that myself. So besides the SANS certifications, keeping up with that, I really like the Hack the Box one. That's pretty cool. My first exposure to it, so it's something new, so that's why probably I like it so much. But yeah, being able to actually know the tools, know how to use them, so that when you do get that entry level job opening, that you can just kind of hit the ground running. And in my opinion, that is what will impress the people on the team, people management or whatever. They're like, oh wow, we didn't really need to help this guy out. He's already doing the work. He's going for it. So it shows focus and determination, I'd say, as well. So
yeah, because too many times people know if you just got the theory that they're going to have to do a lot of hand holding at first, teaching you the hands-on stuff.
Yes. Yeah. But I mean, like, don't get me wrong though. In my opinion, it's a never ending process. Let's see, I've been doing this for 5 years now, and a lot of times there's many situations where I'm like, feel like a newbie, because I'm like, wow, okay, I've never seen this before. And that's when I'd say, kind of like jujitsu, you need to check your ego at the door. Even if you are good at a certain thing, there's certain areas that you might not be so good in, and not being afraid to reach out to coworkers, to friends, to your mentors or anyone, just not being afraid to ask, say, hey, I don't really know this, could you maybe shed some light on this for me, and stuff like that. That is a big one, is no one's going to know everything. So don't be afraid to, swallow your pride and say, hey, I don't understand this. Can you explain it, a little further? And I think that helps a lot too. And
that's true too, because if you're working somewhere and you're asking others for help and collaborating, that makes for a better environment than, just where everyone's got to know whatever, figure it out on their own. So it's,
yes,
it's always good to be able to ask for help. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, that's just, like you said, check the ego at the door. I mean, you're going to be open-minded to listen to other people, because, I see people that are new into it and they're like, I got nothing to offer. But one of the things I always tell people that are mentoring, they've been doing this for a while, is always listen to people just coming in, because, when you came in, there were certain tools and resources, and, maybe you've kept up with some things, but someone coming in brand new, they're going to find something that you hadn't seen yet. So you definitely want to keep an open mind.
Yes, totally agree.
Well, we are down towards the end of the show, and if you have anything you'd like to share or say, or any shout outs or anything before we end, go for it.
Well, just wanted to thank you for the opportunity to, kind of share my story. I didn't think it was a very interesting story, but, maybe somebody else might, be interested and maybe is kind of going down the same path. So, maybe it'll help them. I hope it does. If it helps just one person, that'd be cool. That's awesome. Shout out, to you, of course. And, my team at work, I always appreciate those guys. I learn a ton from my coworkers. And of course, my family and parents, because it's a marathon, like they say, it's not a sprint. So, if you really enjoy doing this, it's going to be a lifelong thing, and as well as the learning lifelong. So, I'm fortunate to have had a very supportive family as far as my career and my aspirations and my goals. So, a big shout out to them for being so supportive in my endeavors.
That's great. Well, it's good to learn some things about you that I didn't know. I enjoyed the conversation, and someone will get something out of this. When we look at our own stories, it may seem kind of boring, but when someone else sees it, there's a lot of value there. So I'm sure many will probably get some good use out of your knowledge and your story. So thanks again.
Yeah, no problem. And if anybody out there does find my story interesting and has more questions or whatever, just hit me up. I am on Twitter. I'm not on there a lot, and I don't post a lot, but I if you DM me or something, I'm on there. So it's at Kirk, KirkWahick. So
we'll be sharing that in the show notes, so you'll be able to find Kirk if you want to reach out to him or follow him on Twitter. So thanks again, Kirk, and thanks everyone for joining, and we'll see you on the next episode.
BugCrowd's award-winning platform combines actionable contextual intelligence with the skill and experience of the world's most elite hackers to help leading organizations identify and fix vulnerabilities, protect customers, and make the digitally connected world a safer place. Learn more at bugcrowd.com.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Hacker Factory podcast with Phillip Wylie. If you learned something new and this podcast made you think, then share itspmagazine.com with your friends, family, and colleagues. If you represent a company and wish to associate your brand with our conversations, sponsor one or more of our podcast channels. We hope you will come back for more stories and follow us on our journey. You can always find us at the intersection of technology, cybersecurity, and society.